Hello and welcome back to the Minesomnia server. This week I'm back with an automatic witch farm design. This farm was made possible by the new 1.16 update, and as you can see on the screen, the farm is compact and there's also no redstone involved. This farm design comes from Raceworks, and down below in the description I'll be providing a link to the original video. And in this video, I will be showing you a step-by-step tutorial of how you can build this farm in your survival world, and with that said, let's get to work. So you may have noticed that we're not in my survival base, and instead, I'm in an area that I'm developing. It took me quite some time to find this exact location on the map, and I picked this location because of the mushroom island that's right here. And there's a witch hut not too far away, and I think it would be a good idea to fill this area with a bunch of AFK farms. But for now, I built up a sky bridge which connects the witch hut to the nether portal. And in a few minutes, you will see why this bridge is necessary for this build. And on the other end of this sky bridge is a witch hut that was naturally generated in the swamp biome. And this is the exact location where we'll be building our witch farm. Right next to the witch hut, I built up a temporary workstation. All of the building materials that you will need for this witch farm have been prepared and stored in the shulker boxes right behind me. So let's go through the shulker boxes and see what materials you will need to build this farm. You will need some packed ice, or in my case, some blue ice, which will work just as well, but of course they're a little harder to obtain. And by the way, do not use regular ice blocks because they will not work for this build. The next thing you will need are stair blocks. You can use any kind of stair blocks to build this farm, and in my case I went with stone stair blocks, just because I happen to have an abundance of those blocks sitting around in my base. And for this build, you should prepare at least 5 to 6 stacks of stair blocks of your choice. You will also need some half slabs, and once again, it can be any slabs of your choice. And in order to build a killing and collection system, you will also need some minecarts. To be specific, at the minimum, you will need 24 minecarts. You will also need at least one rail, as well as some hoppers and chests to complete your collection system. And to complete the collection system, you will also need some water buckets, a sign to stop the water, as well as some solid building blocks of your choice. So those are the materials that you will need to build this farm. But there is another very important step in the preparation process. So as you can see, I'm currently in the nether, and next to me I have prepared 3 Hoglands. Hogland is one of the new mobs in the 1.16 update, and in order for this farm to work, you will need at least 3 Hoglands. And in order to prevent them from despawning, you will also need to put name tags on each one of these guys. So I guess in order for this farm to work, you will need at least 3 name tags. The great thing about these Hoglands is that they're absolutely nasty creatures, and they will attack pretty much anything that moves, including witches. And just be careful when dealing with these guys because they will attack you even if you're behind a fence. Hoglands only spawn in Crimson Forest biomes in the nether, and the process of searching for these mobs is pretty easy here on the Minesomnia server, since players have access to the space above bedrock. And in my case, I flew to the closest Crimson Forest biome and I put down a layer of dirt, which will allow Hoglands to spawn. In my case, if I step back a little further, just like this, some spawning should happen. And just like that, we're seeing some 1.16 mobs spawning right over there. So with that out of the way, we're actually ready to start building the farm. The first thing I'm going to do here is to take a couple of stacks of blue ice. Like I said earlier, packed ice will work just as well. And we will be using these blocks to build the spawning platforms. And to start building the first spawning platform, you just have to stand on top of the roof of the witch hut. And if you come here to the side, you will see that each witch hut has a little balcony. This one block space is part of the area in which witches can actually spawn. So just make sure that your spawning platform extends one block out like this. And for the rest of the witch hut, the roof marks the outer boundary of the spawnable area. So just make sure to build your spawning platform one block above. And once the top layer of the spawning platforms is complete, I just went ahead to get rid of the witch hut, and this way I'll have space to put in 2 more spawning platforms. Just keep in mind that each spawning platform should be 7 blocks by 9 blocks, and make sure to leave 2 blocks between each spawning platform, this way there's enough space for witches to spawn. And move on to the next step of the building process. So for each corner of the spawning platforms, you're going to build up a column of stair blocks like this, and the column should be 3 blocks higher than the tallest spawning platform. And once you have built a column for each of the 4 corners, The next thing you will need to do is to build up the walls of this witch farm, and this is where you will be using a lot of stair blocks. Just make sure that when you're placing these blocks, they are facing up, and overall there should be a 1 block space between the walls and the spawning platforms. This 1 block space in between will allow witches to drop down and be collected by the killing system. So our witch farm is starting to take shape, but as you can see, the wall and the spawning platforms are not yet complete. You may have also noticed these giant donut holes in the middle of the spawning platforms, and those things will be helpful for when we bring the Hoglands into this farm. But before we bring the Hoglands, let's make sure to complete the collection system for this farm. Here I am standing on the lowest spawning platform, and I have removed all of the water in here by placing down dirt blocks. So here I'm just going to dig out a space underneath the spawning platform. And now we have a 3 block tall space for a water collection system. I'm going to remove the remaining dirt blocks here. And I'm going to find a block that is in the exact middle of this area and dig down 1 block because this is where witches will be flushed down to be killed. And for now, I've dug out a trench that is 3 blocks deep, and this will be the location for our killing and collection system. And here I'm just going to give myself some extra space so I can put down some hoppers facing outward. After using all of the hoppers that I have prepared, we now have an item collection system that is taking shape. I'm going to put down a killing mechanism. I'm going to put down a rail by holding shift here. And the next thing I'm going to do is to put down all 24 minecarts that we have prepared in advance on the rail that we just placed down. And any witches that drop on top of these minecarts will be killed, and their drops collected as well, since it's very difficult to kill witches using other mechanisms such as magma blocks. I'll start by putting down a sign right here, and I'll have 1 water source on each of the corners. And after that, the collection system for this farm is now complete. So as you can see, I put on some netherite armor, because our next step is to summon the Hoglands into this farm. And this step is kind of dangerous, and you could even die in the process. So if you don't have really good armor with you, you may want to go get a shield to protect yourself. So I'm here in the nether next to the Hoglands that I have prepared, and it's time to get these guys over to our witch farm. So as you can see here, Hoglands do not walk very fast, but once they see you, they will chase you for a very long distance in an attempt to attack you. And that is exactly how we're going to get these guys over to the witch farm. However, in order to get a Hogland through the nether portal, you will need a lead. And in my case, I got these leads by killing wandering trader llamas. And having a lead with you is very important because Hoglands are naturally scared of nether portals. So you will have to physically drag them over like this. And once a Hogland gets to the overworld, it turns into this thing called Zoglin. And because you cannot control a Zoglin using a lead, you will have to have the Zoglin follow you all the way to the witch farm. So we did get the Zoglin into the farm, but I do need to somehow get this guy onto the bottom layer of the spawning platforms. Is it gonna work if I push him down? I don't think that it's working, but I do have a backup plan. So my plan had worked, and our first of 3 Zoglins is now in place. So I'm going to see if I can fly out of this place. And now that the second Zoglin is in place, I'm going to patch up the top layer of the spawning platform. And I have the last guy right here. And that was scary, and I almost died there. So for now, I'm going to seal this place up, and I'll go in later to retrieve the building blocks that I've left in there. And now that we have all of the Zoglins in place, the hardest steps of building this farm is now complete. As you can see, the 3 Zoglins are now in place, and they will attack any witch that spawn on one of these spawning platforms and push them down into the collection system. And with that out of the way, our farm is pretty much complete. And to wrap up this farm, I'm just going to take some half slabs. Just make sure to cover up the farm so that light cannot get through, and this way witches will start to spawn. And once I put on these 4 blocks here, the roof of this farm is complete. And now we're on to the final step of building this farm. And for this step, I'm going to locate the 3rd stair block, counting from top to bottom, which would be this layer that I'm looking at right now. and I'm just going to place down a 3 blocks wide platform by putting down half slabs on the bottom half of this block. And as you can see here, I'm building this platform all the way around this farm, which according to RaceWorks, by adding in this platform, you can increase the spawn rate of witches in this farm. This AFK witch farm is now complete, so I went AFK for a little bit around this farm, and it looks like we do have some production going on. As you can see here in this chest, we have all types of witch drops, which is pretty awesome. And it looks like we've also had zombies that spawned inside of this farm. I'm not sure why that happened, and right now the production rate here is not very high, but that is also because I have not lighted up the caves around here, and I think once I do it in a future episode, we should be seeing much higher production here in this farm. So that is all I have for this episode. I hope you enjoyed this simple automatic witch farm design by RaceWorks, and if you decide to build this in your own world, comment down below and let me know how it goes. And if you have not subscribed to my channel, consider doing so because we'll be back in this industrial area to build more AFK farms. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next Minesomnia episode.